get to the first map then, which is Skull Creek. So before you get into the best brawlers, I wanted to say, if you don't play much Duo Showdown, I would really recommend you play a few games with your highest trophy brawler, so you kind of get an idea. If you wanted things to do just to practice for this challenge, just play a high trophy Duo Showdown, and that's going to give you the best experience, especially if you play on these maps. So right here, this screenshot of the map with the spawns. I would analyze every single map and just look at the spawn points, and also look at the box spawns and each spawn point for each team, just so you get a little bit of an idea about where everyone is, and also kind of where the boxes will be. So the best brawlers I've set for this map are going to be Colt, B, Byron, Edgar, Mr. P, and Jackie. So the reason I've gone with these brawlers, they're all very strong in the meta right now. And especially Colt is going to be so good just because of that gadget. You can deal 3k, you're going to be able to take out a lot of people. I wouldn't recommend going with 2 tanks, so I wouldn't recommend going with Edgar and Jackie. I'd just go with 1, to be honest. The reason I don't really like Edgar that much is just because if you jump into 2 people, it's going to be very, very difficult to take them both out unless you have like a massive power cube lead. So I don't really like the idea of Edgar too much unless you're going with like a Byron Edgar combination. But if you're playing Edgar, just use your kind of the fact you're going to get your super, kind of sit behind walls, use that for pressure, wait for the perfect time for jump where you know you can kill them. But yeah, Edgar's pretty high skilled on this map, so especially in Duo Showdown, because you really need to know when to jump in. So I wouldn't really recommend going to Edgar if you're not comfortable. The best comp I'd recommend going with is probably a Colt and a B. If you don't have a B, you can go obviously with an Edgar or a Jackie. Or as I said, you can go with Byron. Byron Colt is going to be a very, very strong comp as well, because the map is going to get opened up in the middle. The mid is kind of like a little bit more close range than the outside, but you do only have to get top 2 to get a victory. So just bear that in mind. Say if there's 3 teams left and you know, you're all fighting each other, try and just focus getting a kill on one team, pick up the win, and then, yeah, because you don't need to get top 1, you just need to get top 2. So make sure if there's 3 people left, just focus one team, make sure you're getting one team down. You don't need to get first, you just need to get top 2 to pick up the win. So that's going to be it for Skull Creek, really. Just make sure that you don't go into mid too early, because you're going to get pinched in by everyone. That's pretty similar for every single map, I'd say. But yeah, that's going to wrap it up for the first map here, Skull Creek. Just as we pick up the win here, let's get into the next map. Okay, so jumping into the next map then, which is going to be Feast or Famine. So here, this is a really, really important map. So I would not recommend going into mid, and here's why. Because if you go into mid, you may get 6 cubes. It's like kind of an all or nothing play to either get first or last. And in my opinion, it's much safer to go around the outside and just kind of play for that second place, because you don't need that first place. So if people are going mid, there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna die, so you have like a really high risk of dying. And also, you know, you might get a ton of cubes, yeah, you may, but you don't need to get number 1. So it's just too risky to go into mid. So that's why I'd recommend going with these brawlers. So I recommend Colt, B, Byron, Edgar, also Spike and Bo. Spike, make sure you're using that totem, and you can just sit around the edge, get your super. So that the best comp I'd say would be Spike and Colt. If you don't have Spike, Colt and Bo is going to be a really, really good kind of substitute combination for this map. As I said, make sure you're playing around the edge of the map. You kind of just want to rotate one way, whatever way that is. Same goes for really any map, but it's really kind of amplified on Feast or Famine, just because of the way the map is. Like the mid is so cut off, and yeah, the mid is just so different from the rest of the map. So I'd recommend just rotating one way round and trying to kind of pinch people, because if you push people, you're eventually going to push a team into another team, and then pinch them. They're going to go down, and that's going to be another team eliminated. But yeah, remember, you don't need to get top 1. So there's only ever going to be really one team in the mid. So you just need to get that second place. Find that other team. Make sure that you are getting the second place to pick up the victory. I'd go curveball Spike, obviously, so you can scan the mid a little bit better. Byron, I wouldn't really recommend as much here. He's still going to be very good on the outside, but when it comes to scanning the mid, he's not going to be as good as a Spike, a Bo, a Colt, or some of those brawlers. And definitely, there's going to be a lot of tanks on this map. So Spike is going to be very, very good to deal with all those tanks in the mid. Obviously, at the end, you kind of have to go towards the mid, but by this stage, there's only going to be, say, 3, or you might have even already got your win kind of already with there being 2 teams left. So definitely, Spike's going to be a great pick. Colt is going to be pretty good everywhere. But yeah, that's going to be it for this map. Let's jump into the next map. Okay, so hopping into the third map, then it's going to be Rockwall Brawl. The meta here, very similar to Skull Creek, so I've gone with 4 exactly the same brawlers. But I would just note that the top spawn here has a huge advantage, because they're not competing with anyone for all the boxes in the mid. They can just rush to the mid straight away and grab all the boxes. But yeah, this map very similar, although I would say Edgar's going to be a little bit stronger here. So the main comp I would recommend would be Edgar Colt here. It's just going to be very, very strong because there's so many walls Edgar can hide behind, also bushes he can hide in as well to kind of wait to jump on people. And Edgar is just going to be so, so good on this map. I would definitely not advise going throws on this map because I can see a ton of people playing Edgar, and Edgar just completely counters throwers. So definitely don't play throwers. If you wanted an alternative to Edgar, say you were scared about jumping into two people all the time and you were scared of kind of how to use Edgar on this map, I would definitely go for like a B or a Mr. P, both two really good options, and they're pretty easy to use. You know, Mr. P, just play it slow until you get your turret or your turret. But yeah, this map definitely a pretty fun map for sure. I'd say if you spawn on the left, just get all those boxes on the left. I'd say the worst two spawns in this map are going to be bottom left and also bottom right, because you kind of have to compete in the mid with the other side for those boxes. But yeah, as I said, top spawn are definitely the best one on this map here. But Colt's going to be great. Honestly, make sure you're using your gadgets at the start of the game. That goes for any single brawler, just because using them at the start, you're going to be able to build up power cubes and then kind of be stronger for later on in the game, whereas you don't want to be like 0 cubes at the end of the game. So definitely make sure you're using gadgets at the start of the game. But I think that's going to wrap it up for this map. Let's jump into the final map. Okay, so just something to note, the final map is going to be Acid Lakes. If you look at this, Thousand Lakes, so Thousand Lakes and Acid Lakes, really, really similar. The only difference is the mid here, you have the ropes, and also there's 4 lakes instead of 2, and this is called Thousand Lakes. I think this one would be called Acid Lake since it has kind of that environment, but this is the Acid Lakes that we are probably going to be playing in the Duo Showdown Challenge. So as you can see, there's 2 lakes in mid and there's not the rope, so it's slightly more closed in the mid there, but let's get into it. Okay, so this is going to be one of the longest range maps, Acid Lakes, so I would recommend 100% going with a Byron. If you have Byron, go with him. He is going to be the best brawler on this map. But if you don't, you can replace him with, say, a B or a Colt or a Brock, depending on what you're going to use. I'd say the best comp would be B and also Byron. So if you don't have Byron, I would say go the Colt or a Brock, depending on what you're more comfortable with. But other brawlers are going to be good here as well. Mr. P and Edgar, just pretty strong in the meta right now. Going to be very, very good. I wouldn't recommend going the Piper, just because if you go Piper and then Edgar's sitting in a bush, Edgar can just jump on you and you're going to have no damage. So I just wouldn't go with Piper because you're going to have to hit a lot of shots. If you miss a few shots, you can get pressured back easily. Also, if people just sit behind walls, you know, Piper's not going to be good. So I would recommend going against or not going Piper here. It's just, yeah, I don't like the Piper pick here. So personally, I wouldn't recommend going it. As I said, with all these maps, pretty much, don't go into the mid. There is a ton of cubes in the mid. If you're going mid, make sure it's only one of you that are rushing into mid and definitely not both of your teammates, because it would be a huge mistake for both you to go into mid. If like teams come from both ways, you're going to die and you're going to lose. So do not go into mid unless there's only one team left. So yeah, basically never go into mid. You're going to get pinched by 2 other teams and it's just not going to be good for you to go into mid. So I definitely wouldn't recommend it. Play around the edge and then just, as I said, just rotate one way until you pinch another team and kill another team, and repeat this process until there's only 2 teams left and you are going to win. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up for all the tips in this video. Okay guys, well that's going to wrap it up the video. As I said, if